today. Welcome back. Mileidy and Iris here. And today's topic, I think, to me, is something that it's important. It's something that we always talk about as humans and as people, and we talk about it every time it comes up. But every time it comes up, I think we also get caught off guard, and
Yeah.
it's a little scary. So the topic today is learning to embrace change and being open to embracing that change because change is inevitable. It's
Incredible.
They say change is the only constant, right? It's the only thing that's consistent in life is that change is happening. We're
And
always
it's
changing,
happening always.
always. Physically, it's happening. We change ourselves. We change every year. We change every day. We change physically. And then in our lives, in the context of our lives and in our growth mentally, is something that happens consistently. But what do you think about change, Iris, before I get into a soapbox here?
I actually love this topic and thank you for picking this topic because it's something that I've been struggling, not changing within myself or individually myself, but the changes in the world.
Mm.
Like we collectively as a society, and I might be taking this topic to a whole different level
You
now.
are.
As a society, we have the opportunity to transform, to collectively, whether we like it or not, we are always making changes, socially speaking, culturally speaking. And I found myself um, in 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 awe how it's almost like life gives us the same opportunity to make a different decision, which is in turn is a what is that word that I'm looking? It goes along with change.
Okay.
Making different decision is about changing, it's about evolving.
That's it.
And yet we find ourselves, socially speaking, making the same old decision that seems to be keeping us on the same old patterns rather than forwarding, rather
Yeah,
than moving forward. What do you think?
I completely agree with you. And think about how much that is normal when you say collectively, right? It's in a society and then also in a specific individual that you continue to make the change to the same mistake, right?
Exactly.
Is the change to the same mistake because it's almost like, and as therapists and coaches, what do we always say? What do you need to learn from that, right? Like, what haven't you learned from that situation? Where do you need to go to make that change? What do you need to do? And in this case, you're talking society. And with society, it's so much bigger, right?
Exactly.
Because you have the people that want the change and you want the people that want the status quo.
Exactly.
And this is
Ex-
hard. It's hard because as a society, and change is inevitable, and because sometimes we fall back into the same mistakes, there's still going to be a change in that mistake, if that makes
Exactly.
sense.
Yeah, because there's the consequences of everything. Doesn't matter if it's the same choice, you have to face the consequences of that choice. If it's not in alignment with who you are or your vision of yourself, because we have this idea, I want peace, I want love, because
We
that's
want, yeah.
exactly everything we do is because
So
we
we want,
want that, right?
yeah.
But then our decisions and choices doesn't align with that peace, with that love, but we want that. So
Mhm.
it made no difference. Like, I mean, it made no sense that it mentally, individually, this is what I want. So as a system, as a whole, we make the same decision that keep us trapped in the same old stuff.
Because we want the change, but we don't know how to go about it, right? And again, think about it in the, we're talking macrocosm, but let's think about it in the microcosm with our own personal changes. And when we go into a new situation and we fall back into the same relationship, into the same type of job, the same type of friendships, right?
Yes.
Same type of, and it's because we We want something different, but there's fear. There's fear to that difference. And why is there fear? Because I don't know what's on the other side, right? So there's a huge wall, right? And we're like, oh yeah, what's over there looks nice. And I want to go over there, but what am I going to face when I'm over there?
Oh, what am I
Over
going to
here,
lose?
what am I going to lose? What am I going to, I know how to deal with what I'm working with now. I know how to
Exactly. It's
deal with this.
familiar.
Like this, exactly, these problems, even though I don't like them, even though they don't make me feel good, I know them and I know how to overcome them. I know how to do things with these problems. I
And it
don't
might change. And it might change. Because
and
we
it might,
always,
of course, yeah, that may change on its own, right? But in my mind, in the moment when I'm making a decision, it's like I don't know what, and that looks too scary. And one, it's so funny because as I was thinking about this topic, once we decided on topics, I started thinking a lot about that, and I said, you know what? A big part of change and embracing change is embracing fear.
how about,
Uh-huh.
along with that, a big part of change and embracing change is becoming responsible of the decision that we make and the consequences that we are going to, good or bad. Consequences has nothing to do with good or bad. It's just the
They are.
the precursor of a decision, right?
Yeah.
And as society, we always looking for someone else to blame. We are afraid of making decision because if we make decision, it means that we are responsible. And what happened after something goes wrong?
What if I did the wrong thing, right?
Exactly. So it's so easy to follow someone else because then it wasn't me. It wasn't me. I didn't do it.
I was me.
I didn't
Yeah.
do it. It was him. I just follow it.
Look, blame, and I say this all the time, blame is the discharge of discomfort and pain, according to Brene Brown, right? But it's that I want to discharge. I don't feel good where I am right now, so I'm going to blame him. I'm going to blame that person. I'm going to blame that
Yeah.
person. But
Yeah.
when we go back to embracing that change and accepting fear, accepting consequence, and being open to getting curious, right?
Yeah.
When we are embracing change, we need to feel curious about what does this mean, right? So I'm deciding to step over from the mistakes I've been making, from the relationships I've been in, from the choices I've made, right? In general, I'm deciding to step away from that and go this other route. So I don't fall back into the same trap because it's so easy. Once you get a new job, looking for the same people that were hurting you, the same personalities. Or
Yeah.
once you get into a new relationship, looking for that same person, because that's very common, is
Mhm.
okay, first accepting to me is accepting that fear first, then having a conversation with yourself of saying, I'm going to be open to new experiences, even if they feel weird,
Mhm.
because it's going to feel weird.
Yes.
You're forcing
It will be.
yourself to be with different people. You're forcing yourself to have other things because, like you said, every decision has a consequence. And no matter, there's going to be positive and negatives in everything. So, yes, you're going to
Always.
face problems that you probably would not have faced over there, right? In,
Exactly.
in that mistake that you have keep making, right? So, there's going to be situations that you're going to face here that you're like, man, over there, I wouldn't have faced that. But let's get curious about how to
Exactly.
fix that. Let me get curious about how to go about this, not expecting perfection. Because that's the thing. If I change, it's gonna be perfect. No, it's not.
No, it's not. You're still going to have argument. You're still going to be feeling so, lonely sometime or angry or
Or whatever. Or face another, and it could be in this one relationship, we had money, and in this new relationship, we don't have. It could be in
exactly.
this one relationship, I, this person was doing these horrible things, but they were a great cook. In this new relationship, this person is not a good cook. I don't know. I'm making up things, right? But the main thing is knowing that it's not going to be perfect once you make the change. And why isn't it perfect? Because learning is not perfect. The fact that
No,
you're learning means that you're imperfect at that thing because you're learning it, right?
you
Like you
have to
need to,
keep on evolving.
you gotta keep on. Yeah. Oh my gosh, yes. You have to keep on evolving. You have to keep on growing. I think a big part when you're in the middle once you're starting to embrace the change and kind of embrace the fear, embrace the learning, is to practice mindfulness.
Yes,
And I'm going through that right now. Sometimes I feel very overwhelmed with changes that are happening in my life, and I feel very overwhelmed. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, Mileidy, what are you doing right now? Because if I think of everything I have to do, or that next thing that's coming up, or that thing that I forgot to do, it's too much.
it
So
is.
now I have to breathe and say, okay, what am I doing right now? I'm driving. Well, let me drive. I am cooking. Well, let me cook. I'm working. Let me work. Right? Let me do that one thing that I'm doing right now. Because if not, that change becomes so overwhelming that it's so easy to backtrack.
But it also goes back to our topic weeks ago about self-love.
Yeah.
We have we tend to run away from making changes because we don't like how we feel, the uncertainty of not knowing what's going to happen, because we'd rather stay with the devil that we know than to get to know a new one and see what that one brings, because there's a disconnection with our own values, with our own self. And it goes back to individually we have all this desire, and sometimes we continue even though there's a part of us that said no, this is not what I want, like the relationship
Mhm.
or the job
Other
or
job.
whatever it is in your life. This is not what I want, but it's what I know. It's the familiar. In order to do that, like you said, it's not going to be easy because you have to force yourself at first so you can create a new you, a new transformation, so you can then embrace the changes that's going to come, because it's coming, whether you see it or not, it's coming.
I mean,
And we're not seeing it just because the mind keeps thinking of the same old stuff.
mhm.
So, and it goes back again with individually, this is who we are. Collectively, then we succumb to the culture, we succumb to the majority because it's easier. We don't, it's not our fault. Somebody else told me to
Mhm.
do it.
Exactly. This was easier. Sometimes, and again, when we think of relationships and change, right? We talked about like romantic relationships or like a job and the relationships with the people at the job. It could be even our relationship with food. And now we're
Yes.
trying to make a change, right?
Oh, so
But then
hard.
it's like, oh, but it's so much easier. And then, what's funny, and this is a quick example, but it brings it together, and you can put this example into anything. You're deciding to make a change in your eating habits, right? So you were always cooking, I don't know, bad food, whatever that bad food is to you, right? And then
Fried
you say,
plantains.
now you decide to say, you know what, I'm gonna cook the good food. The first time you make the good food, it may not taste good. And it may
No,
not taste good for two reasons. One, it could be that the food may not, you're not used to it. So it's something new. So you have to embrace that change, right? It could be that you're not cooking it very well because it's your first few times cooking it, period. And maybe you need a new recipe. So this is when first, and I go back to accepting that fear of, I don't know how to cook this, right? Second, being curious, looking at different recipes, different ways of doing it, practicing letting go of perfection. We don't have to be perfect the first few times. And then practicing that, and I go back to that mindfulness of being in the moment. Sometimes when you're in the moment, you're like, you know what, I'm gonna put this here, I'm gonna put that there. And now you get used to that. And again, a very small example with food, but it could be in anything, in
it could
any.
be anything.
And when you are really practicing that mindfulness and being in the moment, you also get to listen to a lot of your own intuition. So if you're really, really going the wrong route, something inside you will tell you you're really,
Yeah.
really going the wrong route. But making sure that it's not just the fear of the change, making sure that you're in the moment and looking at it in different ways.
I know we're about to wrap this one up, but now
Mhm,
that you you talk about mindfulness and listening to your own intuition and listening to that part of you that tells you when something is right and something is not right. Sometimes we cannot distinguish between when we feel uncomfortable, that is
mhm,
a good uncomfortable, so we can transform, because we're not in tune with our feelings. But you
Mm-hmm.
can see the outcome. If the outside is showing you separation, it's showing you hate, it's showing you division, separation, division, the same thing. It's showing you things that you yourself won't do to someone else. That is a way of also realizing, even if you feel to follow to
Mm-hmm.
follow something that is not within your values, the value that you claim to have, and you only know which one are those, right? If your decision that you are about to make shows you uh, hate, it shows you anger, it shows you separation, it shows you discrimination, that is not the change you want to make. Because if what you want is peace, peace is kind and loving and inviting,
Embracing.
and
Loving.
it doesn't,
Justice.
yeah, it protects.
Mm-hmm.
It, so you don't have to feel good about something to know whether it's good or not.
That's true. That's true.
And
It's
there's
where
nothing.
it's leading to. It's where it's
Exactly.
going to. Oh, that's so, yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, and you're right. We're getting to that point where we have to wrap this up. But I will have to say, this topic we need to talk about it a little bit more later because it
Yes,
is
we
so
do.
big. It is so big and so important. And when we think about what we do as coaches and as therapists, that's what we do. We help embrace that change and noticing with the practicing of mindfulness and with all of this, noticing, am I doing the right change? Am I going the right route? And only you can answer that for yourself, right, as a person. But sometimes getting the help, talking it over can be so helpful. So
Yes.
continue to seek help. Let us know what you think. Like, subscribe, comment. I love reading comments. So please, please, please throw some comments in there. And I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day.